So to the main topic of this video, the lineage of Lord Rama and the connection to the Ethiopian civilizations. Lord Rama performed his pastimes in India circa 1.8 million years ago. He had sons because he is the ideal incarnation of God to teach a man how to be a divine man and to be a divine ruler or divine king. So as such, Lord Rama had children. Moving on to the end of his pastimes, his children spread out in the world. So if you read a book called Nubia, I don't know the full title is Nubia, but I don't know the artist's name, the author's name. I got the book, but it's in storage right now. But listen, there's a book called Nubia that explains. That's why I really got to thank Taki Grant, because when I came out the shelter and stuff, he called me on to help him with UNRS, which was the Upper Nile Research Society. Prior to that, a few months before that, I had started reading Krishna conscious literature. So I was learning about the spiritual, but I wasn't learning enough about my material manifestation here. And that's where Taki came in with this, we're going to bring the people to Nubia. We're going to teach them about Egypt. We're going to form a concert. And so I had to start reading about Egypt and Nubia. And it was amazing that I kept seeing parallels between the civilizations of ancient Nubia and Egypt and ancient India. I kept seeing the parallels. And of course, we know there was a European philosopher, I believe his name was Socrates. He traveled around the black world at the time. And when he came back, they rushed around him. They was like, yo, tell us about these two great black civilizations. These two civilizations you went to, they're so great. They're so advanced. Tell us about them. He was like, of the black civilizations, there are two. Ethiopias. He said there's Ethiopia and there's East Ethiopia. So he was talking about India and he was talking about Africa, specifically the Nile Valley civilizations of Africa. Listen here, people. If you read that book, Nubia, it will confirm what geneticists have been saying for the last 20, 30, 40, or 50 years. Everybody's saying there was a migration out of Africa, but there was also a migration back into Africa. Srila Prabhupada said that Parashurama, which is an incarnation of Krishna, he killed off like 21 dynasties, your kids and your kids for 21 generations. He was killing them off. And the ones who he didn't kill off, they escaped. Some of them went up into Europe. Some of them went into Asia Minor, and some of them went into Africa. So apparently, according to Srila Prabhupada, that dynastic era was formed by descendants of those people who migrated back into Africa from being chased away by Parashurama. So they were royalty. The Egyptians were royalty. So they probably had that black and Indian blood, which is why they had that kind of peculiar Ethiopian kind of look, because they were two different black seeds, but it was still the black seed. Okay, good. We have evidence in the Nubia book that there were different migrations. They looked into the graves. There's like A culture, B culture, C culture. And in the legends and lore of the people themselves, they'll tell you that all of these different cultures in different times came to visit Ethiopia and settled there. So we have evidence that so-called outsiders came back to resettle in Africa. There's evidence in the graves. There's evidence on the walls. I could go. Listen. There's something called a kustul incense burner that will show you that even in Nubia, in primordial times before Kemetic dynasty of Egypt, in Nubia, people were still wearing the crown of rulership that became popular in Egypt hundreds, if not thousands of years later. So we have a contiguous civilization. Now, what am I getting at? Sekhmet. Sekhmet is a female lion-headed deity. She's from the Solar Dynasty according to the Egyptians. She was dispatched to the planet Earth to destroy the enemies of Ra. And one thing about her story that stands out to me was the fact that she drank tens of thousands of millions of gallons of the blood of the enemies of Ra, to the point where they had to trick her. They had to get hundreds of millions of barrels of wine and mix it in with the blood till it flowed like a river. And once she drank all of that and got drunk, and then she woke up from her drunkenness, she felt ashamed for what she had did. She's a solar deity, lion-headed deity. Then we see something interesting in the Srimad Bhagavatam about Lord Narsimhadev. Once again, a Pedamek A Pedamek is he who sees in all directions. Narsimha Dev, according to the Narsimha Kavacha, or the shield of Narsimha, it says he sees in all directions. And when you go look at the ancient walls of Nubia, you will see a Pedamek has his head headed in 4 directions, including up, because it represents he could see in all directions. A Pedamek was a lion-headed deity from Nubia. So I found out that Krishna incarnates in all countries, in all nations at different times. The reason why the Vedas strictly, particularly deal with India is because, first of all, the Vedas were compiled by Vyasadeva approximately at the beginning of Kali Yuga, which was 3100 BCE. So this was the time people had become dumb, and by that time, the history was really centered and focused on India at that time in the world period. But yes, the records of Krishna's incarnations in different countries have existed from time immemorial, but they've been destroyed or usurped or changed, or they're sitting in the Vatican Library. 8 miles of our books. 8 miles of our books. I could barely read English, but they got 8 miles of my books over there buried in the darn Vatican. So this crystal incense burner shows you that, first of all, a royalty in Nubia is buried at a place called El Kuru. And where was the battle located of the Mahabharat? Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra. And the royal dynasty of that time was the Kurus and the Pandavas. How is there a royal cemetery in Nubia? Now, let's go back. 1.8 million years ago, after Lord Rama finished his pastimes and his sons spread out in the world, there was one named Kush. Why is this name Kush spreading everywhere from India to Afghanistan to Iran, Indo-Kush, and all the way into Nubia, Kush? Because this one family. It's one family, man. It's all one family. So these people now, when you have King Selassie, they say that King Selassie had a statue of Lord Rama in his house and he used to worship it. And you say, well, that's heathenism, that's paganism. Well, remember now, the Israelites lived in the land of Canaan. They lived in the land of Canaan. They picked up a lot of, some people say the Israelites are Canaanites. They picked up a lot of the traditions from the Canaanites, including the worship of various deities and mortis. So for all of those people who believe that the Israelites were just this monotheistic religion, nah, homie. They had statues in their crib that they used to worship. They even worshiped the golden calf. And Moses chopped that worship down real quick because it was time for the male-dominated religions to come in. So it was no more need of the mother. So they killed the mother and started eating the mother instead of honoring the mother. And now we see where the world is at. You see how Trump treats Melania. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know Melania and I treat her better than Trump does. We see it. Come on, man. Let's not play no games. So males are dominating everything, and along with that comes testosterone, and it's a known fact that testosterone makes you a little stupid. Okay, moving on. So Lord Ram has a descendant called Haile Selassie. Just look up the descendancy. If you go into the first books of the Bible, Genesis, it has the names of Rama in there. It has the name of Lava in there. It has so many Vedic names right there in Genesis chapter 10. How so? If it wasn't one civilization and one people, the name would not have popped up. Rama's name is in the Bible, man. Y'all people got to stop ostracizing God's people, and y'all got to stop ostracizing the incarnations of God, because it's for the benefit of us. So here we go. King Selassie was connected to the ancient Kushites. All of those people, if you look at the Ethiopians, they look like Indians. They have like this look, like we're not Indians directly, but we could be related to them. If you look at the language, Gaaz and Amharic and all of these original scripts, it looks like Sanskrit. It looks like Devanagari. It's all connected. So you had Sekhmet. How is it that Sekhmet is a lion-headed deity from the Solar dynasty? And Narsimha Dev is a lion-headed deity who drank the blood of 10 million soldiers. Like, y'all ain't gonna keep hitting me with these coincidences and tell me that it's a different system. And I don't care about, your personal Indian versus black beef and your black versus Indian beef and who's superior and who started it first. All I see is the essence. Because for me, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. For me, everything is Krishna. Everything is Krishna. This here is personal. So I had an argument with a friend of mine, right? And she says to me, oh, you only talk about Krishna because that's all you got. And without Krishna, you're nothing. Whoo! Boy, that stung my ego so bad. I had to put on time out, man. Like, I don't want to talk to you for a minute. And, you know, when I go to sleep, stuff comes to me. I woke up on my humble stuff like, yo, she was right. Without Krishna, I'm nothing. Because for all of the people who knew me before Krishna, I was a fun dude. I was a silly dude. I had fun. I was a cool dude. You know, everybody liked me. Most people liked me. I had fun. I did a lot of things. But that essence was lacking. That divine essence was missing. So no matter what I had to offer the world before Krishna consciousness, it would never be of lasting value. But now that I got Krishna consciousness, man, I got everything. So understand, yeah, I am nothing without Krishna. And, you know, it was really a compliment when she was basically saying everything that comes out of your mouth is about Krishna. Yo, dogs, I can't help it. My life has been Krishnaized. I didn't know what I was asking for when I was working at Fairway Market. I started chanting while working in the coffee department and just chanting all day for 8 hours, my whole 8-hour shift. I'm like, I know I don't want them to see my mouth moving, but I gotta chant this mantra because Prabhupada said if you chant Hare Krishna, your life will be Krishnaized. Well, do I know what Krishnaized mean? But anyway, my life was Krishnaized. Because for me, right? If you want to ask me what's my religion, I've abandoned religion. But if you want to ask me what's my practice, I do 4 things. Just like there's 4 regulative principles for those people who want to ascend to a higher level of life. And for me, like my 4, I don't call them regulative principles, but I call them my 4 principles. I do 4 things as much as possible. I chant Hare Krishna. I honor or I eat prasadam. I talk about Krishna and I hear about Krishna. There's a paradoxical loop because the more I talk about Krishna, the more I want to hear about Krishna. The more I hear about Krishna, the more I want to talk about Krishna. I can't help it and I'm not even trying to help it. So he's kind of dissolving my old heart and bringing a new heart in, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate Homegirl for putting me in my place, for telling me I'm nothing without Krishna. Because she reminded me that, yes, however faulty I am an ambassador of the spiritual world. Well, if not in conduct, if not in name, then in speech and in the way I affect people through Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, the one who is everything to me. So yes, there's a connection between the ancient dynasties of Nubia and Egypt and those people over in India and these divine beings from the other planets and the other solar systems and the other universes. These divine beings have all come together to leave a divine legacy for the human race. It is called the Ramayana. It is called the Mahabharata. It's called the Vedas. Now remember, the Vedas are vast and very intellectual. So what we have now is the Vedanta Sutra. And we have the different scriptures that explain, like there's a 555 part explanation of the Vedas broken down into 4 chapters. I forgot the name of it. It slips me right now. But let's put it like this. There's sufficient information right now to help you to get self-realized. The more you learn about Krishna, the more self-realized you will become. The more divine you will become. The more light. And, you know, not for vanity's sake, but I get a lot of compliments about my skin. I will say this. They say that those people who engage in Krishna consciousness have a certain glow because the energy is internal. We do a lot of internal energy exercises and it manifests in the skin. It manifests outward and there's a certain glow and an energy that the devotees have. And I don't want to be the only one to taste this. I want y'all to taste it too. This 20-minute video, I know I was rambling, but really I just want y'all to research the connections between Ram, Kush, Nubia, Egypt, Narsimhadev, Sekhmet. Sekhmet means Sekhem, which means power. And the word Shakti is a Sanskrit word. They both come from divine languages. Medunetta is a divine language as well as Devanagari. And Sanskrit says Shakti. One says Sekhem, one says Shakti. Man, it's the same system, just colored differently according to time, place, and circumstance. But do not neglect the Vedic teachings. Don't neglect the Bhagavad Gita. Don't neglect Krishna. Don't neglect your spiritual master. Give all honors to those who taught you things, even if you can no longer see eye to eye with them. Give them their honors because they're trying to help you get back to Krishna. So listen, if you have any questions or I didn't make anything clear, or you want me to touch on hone in on something that I mentioned, because really there was so much more I wanted to say, but crazy man Caprice, you know how I go. So listen, chant Hare Krishna. We don't have much time left.